My name is Taylor Rose and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything reading and writing. It has been a month since I posted my first video about Once Upon a Con. I suggest you go back and watch that video before watching this one, but just as a recap, Once Upon a Con was a convention that took place August 14th through 17th at the Gaylord National Harbor in Maryland. Initially, things looked pretty positive compared to some of these other conventions that have been going on, but very quickly after that first day, things began to unravel. Many of the staff and cosplayers who arrived to help run this event had the rug pulled out from underneath them. Essentially, they were told that the rooms they were promised were not available for a multitude of reasons, so these people were forced to then pay out of pocket hundreds of dollars to have somewhere to sleep. The people who were unable to afford that expense on such short notice ended up just leaving, which resulted in many of the panels and events for the con being unstaffed and run by volunteers who came out of the crowd, essentially. Authors who attended were also told to accept doubloons, and they were told if they accepted these doubloons for a physical copy of a book that they would be paid at the end of the night, but they were never paid out. So a lot has happened in the last month. We are going to go through some posts on Threads, mostly chronologically, to see how things developed. After the convention ended, Once Upon a Con made this post on their Instagram. Hi everyone, we want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude for the incredible dedication each of you demonstrated this past weekend. Despite the challenges we faced, your unwavering commitment to excellence shone through in everything you did. Your ability to come together as a team, support each other, and push through adversity exemplifies the true spirit of our organization. Thank you for your hard work, resilience, and for embodying the values we stand for. Together, we overcome obstacles and achieved great things that made magic happen for so many. We faced a lot of issues this weekend, and we would like to touch on those as well as what we're doing on the leadership side as far as corrective actions. We committed to providing covered rooms and crash space for staff who worked more than 20 hours. Due to unforeseen issues with our bank, this was not fully met from our side. To mitigate the impact, personal cards were used to cover as many hotel expenses as possible. If you were promised crash space and had to put down your own card for a room, please email reimbursement@onceuponaconvention.com with the following information: number of people in the room, whether those individuals were also staff, dates of stay, departments represented, copy of your final bill. We will reach out to those who submit information to this email address to arrange proper reimbursements. All reimbursements will begin processing no later than August 29th, 2025. VIPs were issued doubloons, redeemable for one free regular paperback book from our authors. The attendees were unclear which books qualified for these coins, which caused confusion on the author end, and for that, we are sorry. We will not be using these doubloons in the future. It was an idea that was added to the mix and not properly executed. If you accepted these and submitted them to the registration team at the end of each day, we will be contacting you to process payment. Curie will reach out no later than August 20th to confirm the cost of your books collected via doubloons and what payment method you prefer. Author reimbursements will begin no later than August 29th. Penelope Penguin merchandise. We did not meet the pre-order minimum for year 1 penguins, so the order was not placed. This was not properly communicated by Elena, leaving the board with the impression that although tariffs were also a concern, they were not the only one. We are in discussions with Squishable to remedy this and plan to bring Penelope the Penguin to life for Volume 2. Emails will be sent to each person who pre-ordered Penelope to explain exactly what we are stating here, as well as updates as they become available through Squishable. We remain committed to featuring this product line as part of the magic of Once Upon a Con in future years, and will continue to work towards this. Board of Directors update. After discussions between the new board members and Elena, the decision was made for her to step down in all capacities. This change reflects our commitment to addressing organizational weaknesses that create unnecessary challenges and building a stronger foundation for the future, and helps us ensure effective communication and successful execution of future events. Elena fully supports and agrees with this decision and the direction of the board members. 2 new members have joined the board of directors. Syra brings extensive live event experience with a background built from working major conventions like Biggest Little Fur Con, Painted Desert Fur Con, Denver, Everfree Northwest, and Anthro Northwest, among many others. Tucker, an entertainment and hospitality veteran with over 10 years of experience in live events and touring production leadership, further strengthening our operational expertise. With fresh perspectives and diverse skill sets, our board is positioned to guide Once Upon a Con toward a stronger, more sustainable future. Currently, no formal titles have been decided as all 3 board members, Syra, Tucker, and Kiri, are working equally to cover all tasks moving forward. Streamlining the schedule. Over the past year and a half, we added a variety of smaller events and activities that, while enjoyable, diluted the precision and focus required to deliver our main events at the highest standard. Moving forward, our schedule will be more streamlined with fewer overlapping side events, ensuring that our primary programming is executed at the quality level you expect from us. This streamlined approach also strengthens communication between departments by reducing logistical complexity and providing clearer direction for each segment of our organization and the volunteers and staff that help support it. Marketplace and Author Alley improvements. Last-minute schedule changes in Marketplace and Author Alley created confusion and frustration for vendors. Moving forward, knowledgeable staff members will be stationed in the vending hall during load-in and load-out to provide immediate assistance and keep the process running smoothly. For future events, we also plan on bringing in pipe and drape from an external vendor to ensure a consistent professional look throughout the vendor hall and clearly define vendor spaces. Addressing load-in miscommunications. Miscommunication between Once Upon a Con and the Gaylord regarding load-in times contributed to delays at the dock. Once Upon a Con was informed that Hall E would be available Thursday at 4 p.m., but it was not made clear that this referred only to the hall itself and not the dock. Because union workers are required to operate without outside interference for safety and contractual reasons, the dock was temporarily closed until their loadout was complete. We want to reiterate that the results of this past weekend is in no way a reflection of our staff and volunteers. This event would not have happened without them, and they chose to stay, to work in difficult conditions to provide the best experience they could for attendees. These are hardworking people, many of which have plenty of experience in this field, that did what they could to provide a positive end-user experience. For that, we cannot thank them enough. We know these changes will make all the difference to create a core experience of community and fantasy, and our dedication to bringing fantasy to life through this event. We are committed to demonstrating clear expectations for our attendees and creating lasting fantasy memories. So almost immediately after the con ended on the 18th, Life of Cosplay came on Threads and said, "I'll be speaking up soon about Once Upon a Con. I've been talking to a lot of people who attended, and I have my own opinions and experiences I'm going to share. Oh, and I got kicked out of their Discord for posting something that their mod said first and agreed with me on." They included these screenshots from Discord, where Lizard God made this really long post. Hi, I'm Micah or Butler Avalon. I haven't read to see if this has been answered, but here's what I know as a last-minute department co-head. I don't know about the cafe tickets going to charity. I cannot confidently say anything. I do know that any money and After Dark tap money were/are directly being sent to charity. I can confidently say many people canceled and refunded their reservations. I can say that if you had more than 20 other guests with you outside of After Dark, it was mostly due to rescheduling, and we only had a few sessions that hit more than 30 guests at a time. Food and drinks, as I was told, were included in the ticket prices. Lastly, many sessions were canceled due to the no food situations, and refund info was given to people who asked for it. If you need the refund email and you did not get it, I'll send it screenshot if I can get the message through. Any more info with where funds are going would have to come from Kiri and Elena at this point. My department head will be going through and working on the refunds as soon as they've recovered from being overworked. Please have patience with them. I am still so sorry Cafe turned out the way it did. I really wanted to be a butler and play games, Oracle, and maybe wall slam a few lovely people. I did not want to be running Chesapeake Front Hall, LMAO. Thanks so much for the understanding you've all given Cafe, though. I'm really hoping to get transparency too, as someone who worked it. Obviously, this was a staff member for the cafe that didn't have food for most of the attendees and then popped up at the last minute with some like prepackaged muffins, basically. And if you notice, multiple of the words are censored in their post. So we have charity, refund, funds, a lot of suspicious words. So Life of Cosplay asks, wait, are messages getting censored? Is that why you're typing that way? And Lizard God answered, it wouldn't let me send it. I'm not sure why or what word triggered it. Blair answered, yes, the word refund is banned. And you can see here, Life of Cosplay is trying to figure out which words are censored. So they made a post saying, okay, so it's probably refund, canceled, screenshot, or reservation, because those are the words that Lizard God censored. When Life of Cosplay censors refund specifically, their post went through. So the convention runners, the convention organizers on their Discord, they censored multiple words that clearly were really relevant to the conversation at the time. Melissa McKinnon, author, also posted on Threads, hey, Once Upon a Convention, you're paying Sarah J. Maas her required 30% of royalties for hosting a Starfall ball and for using her High Lord shit, right? She has no problem suing people to collect. So this is in reference to Sarah J. Maas's decision earlier this year to severely limit who is allowed to use her intellectual property. So all of these Starfall balls that are being held around the country are no longer sanctioned, essentially, unless they pay 30% of their profits to Sarah J. Maas. Read with Cat 907 says, definitely not. They haven't even paid the authors who attended and were forced to accept doubloons in exchange for their books they were trying to sell for actual money. And Melissa says, oh, ow, I'm just being really fucking petty at this point because I'm that pissed for my friends. Understandably. Quick note, I tried finding like actual textual evidence of this sort of licensing fee that apparently went into effect, and I couldn't find anything solid. I'm assuming it's from people reporting from their own licensing deals. There are a lot of comments where people are saying, I have a licensing deal and XYZ is in it, but for obvious reasons, nobody is posting those publicly. However, I did find this post from New World Events that states they had emailed the licensing company in January. They specifically asked about ticketed events and were told no licenses are being offered at this time. Now that she has transitioned over to IGM, I don't know if maybe that would change. I doubt it. Potentially, they weren't even allowed to have the ball to begin with, but I just wanted to clarify. I personally could not find hard written evidence that this was the case. As for the profits from some of their events, including the cafe going to charity, Mukasey posted on August 21st, per the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Once Upon a Con never reached out. I will hold my breath a little, hoping they will do the right thing because 1,000 is pretty large and maybe, just maybe, there's a delay. But if they did donate it, it's easily proven with the receipt, dated, of course. And then they posted this screenshot, presumably from Make-A-Wish, though they did censor out the contact information. And the email says, hello, here's our response to your inquiry about the Once Upon a Con 2025 event. Make-A-Wish is not affiliated with this event and was not informed of or involved in its planning or execution. The use of our name and logo was unauthorized and occurred without our consent. We are currently reviewing the matter and will take appropriate steps to protect our brand and ensure transparency with our supporters. So that does not bode well for Once Upon a Con. On August 28th, Atlas Creed posted an update. Here's a little update on Once Upon a Con. As you may have seen, the expected payout date for doubloons and room refunds is tomorrow, August 29th. Authors got an email 2 days ago, which I'll screenshot in my last thread, that caused confusion. The specific language was, the board is discussing the best/fairest way to get everyone paid as soon as possible. Once that specific method has been decided, I will share it with all authors. Let's be clear. The best/fairest way to pay back doubloons is to do so immediately and all at once. There is no decision to be made. Authors were used as scapegoats to save the event by handing out an extra doubloon to VIP ticket holders when so many events got canceled. With this, I went to Discord to clear things up. The answers weren't great. I asked them for transparency and they started providing end-of-day reports of what they worked on. I thought this was a good step. However, the end-of-day reports essentially became useless information, most of which were saving face acts that weren't tackling the greatest priorities, especially pertaining to people's money. If there is one cardinal rule to running a business, which is what running a convention is, it's you don't fuck with people's money. Simple. You pay people what they're owed, you honor contracts, you do what's right. I paid for my table in advance for 2026, and as of now, I'm still planning to attend. That can and will quickly change come Saturday. If authors are not paid for their doubloons, if staff are not reimbursed for their rooms as promised, then I will formally request a refund for next year's event. I am a level-headed person, and I'm not bringing malice to this, only fairness. I don't advocate for violence of any kind. To the organizers, I hope you do the right thing. I offered you a fair second chance for exactly that reason. But if you fail to uphold your promise, I promise to spread the word to ensure that Once Upon a Con 2026 sees as little attendees and vendors as I can possibly make happen. Quick math. Rumor is 250 VIP tickets were sold with 2 doubloons each. That's 500 doubloons. Let's average $20 a doubloon. That's $10,000 in circulation if all doubloons were spent. Considering your card froze and no rooms have been refunded, there should be money available to cover the doubloons that were planned for the event. Do the right thing. We then arrive to August 29th. So this is the first day that authors were promised they would be reimbursed for the doubloons. Authors had been split into multiple groups. So there's a first wave, a second wave, a third wave. Atlas Creed posted, that's a wrap on giving the organizers of Once Upon a Con grace. They established the 29th as the day staff and authors would be reimbursed. Room reimbursement for staff and doubloon reimbursement for authors. I've heard of 0 people receiving any kind of money, and several authors were sent emails of which batch they are in for receiving money. Most have been in batch 3 for September 18th, a whole month after the convention, and a few were batch 2 for September 4th. As such, I officially requested a refund for the 2026 table fee I placed. I also never received an email pertaining to my reimbursement. An event that is unable to take care of people who volunteer to make the event happen and who, without the consent of authors, offer attendees free books with no plan or budget to compensate authors fairly deserve no support. I wish them the best in future endeavors, but I will be sure that people know the character of the organizers. Juliet Caruso, author, said, with the number of verifiable lies we've been given and lack of full explanations, I don't see how we're expected to trust anything else we're told. I haven't gotten my email yet from them, but regardless of what batch we're in, I won't believe a repayment date until the money is actually in my account, if it ever is. I accidentally cut off their name, but another person posted, this is the email I received from Curie on Wednesday. I don't understand why they would need to discuss a best and fairest way of reimbursement. Just pay us, alphabetical, first in, first out, highest to lowest. There's no fairest, just work through the payments. So this is essentially the same email that Atlas Creed received, but the second paragraph does talk about a refund for their booth fee. Casey Renee Cosplay responded to the original post, not to mention they're still ghosting many of us. Atlas says, following AML Grace straight up disappeared, even from social media. I've sent emails and heard nothing back in months. I wonder if they will end up doing the same. Books of Destiny says, I haven't even gotten a batch email. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take them to court. And Atlas says, yeah, same. I'm consulting a lawyer now. The next day on the 30th, Mukasey is back. Still, no one has come forward being in the first round. A third round has been thrown in the mix and multiple authors are reporting not even being contacted. Once Upon a Con appears to be just that. And they attach this email that you can see says update doubloon reimbursement info from Once Upon a Con. Thank you for your patience. The board has discussed a few different options and decided to complete as many doubloon reimbursements as possible starting today, meaning a chunk will be reimbursed today and the next chunk will be reimbursed when our ticketing platform receives a payout on September 4th, and so forth. There's no solution that will make every single person happy immediately. This is the decision the board made to finish it as soon as possible. You are currently in the third wave of reimbursements. Our ticketing platform will send us a payout on September 16th. These take 2 to 3 days to process and hit our account, meaning you will be in the chunk of authors being reimbursed on September 18th. If you have any personal questions you would like addressed via email, you are welcome to ask them in reply to this email. If they are more general questions you would like to ask in the Discord, you are welcome to do that as well. Mukasey came back a few hours later and posted another update. Sharing screenshots for guests and staff who write affected and blocked because they called you out shouldn't be problematic or harassing, as a debt is still owed. Flights and rooms. You mean the flights that stranded at least one person far from home and that you deliberately ignored their messages and strung them along? Where the money went? I like how you give a vague answer. Between the nearly $3K room, alleged $10K gown, outside alcohol, and allegedly paying/feeding your friends that you're close to, it does seem sketchy. You collected a lot of money for this con, and it is perfectly reasonable to question where the money people spent on pushes, workshops, ticketed events, and so on went, especially with the amount of people that allegedly were there. When you take money that is being given to you for a purpose and use it on something else, it is considered embezzlement. I'm giving definition of it, not a lawyer. The Penelope plushies that you were advertising to be ready at the con that apparently took a cruise and ended up in the Atlantic and then suddenly snapped away by Thanos. If you sold 100 at $45 each, that is $4,500. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but want to explain the gist. Embezzlement is a felony in the state of Maryland at $1,000. You are in a really bad situation, and you and Elena need to get your shit together and actually release some sort of financial document to show where the money went and why you couldn't feed/house the convention staff, pay your guest and pilfered money off workshops, whose runners had absolutely no idea there was a fee for it. I'm happy to talk to you to set records straight, but I'm still going to loudly yap about the people taken advantage of and who had put money they likely couldn't spare house themselves based on your clearly bogus information and stringing people along the entire time with constant lies. So this post here talking about Penelope, that was the cute penguin plush that nobody ever received. Apparently on the Discord, they claimed that the Penelope plushies had not arrived because they were on a ship via, being shipped. And then someone had reached out in my last video to Squishable, and Squishable said there was a mock-up created and that's it. There was no order. They were never created. So that's why they're saying they were snapped away by Thanos. Attached to the post are some posts from the Discord where you can see Kiri, one of the showrunners, posted Happy Friday, everyone! I'm popping in to clarify a few things. Part 1. Yes, a chunk of doubloon payouts go out today. There was a specific date given that these reimbursements would start, and that date is today. There's not a specific time given. As it is early afternoon, there's still plenty of time for things to go as discussed. The other board members have other full-time jobs. They are not as available as I am, and if something needs a board decision, I have to wait until they have both given input on those decisions. The decision was made by the board to complete as many doubloon reimbursements as possible starting today, meaning a chunk will be reimbursed today, and the next chunk will be reimbursed when our ticketing platform receives a payout on September 4th. There's no solution that will make every single person happy immediately. This is the decision the board made to finish it as soon as possible. The email on the docket today is to explain that and to share which specific payout date you can expect your reimbursement. My hours are not regular business hours. I may work different hours than you do, and that does not mean I am not working or that you are not getting correspondence. Once Upon a Con is dedicated to providing a harassment-free experience for everyone. We do not tolerate harassment of participants in any form. You can view these rules at any time in the rules thread. These rules include our zero tolerance for harassment. Harassment includes unwelcome comments regarding a person's lifestyle choices and practices, which can include food, health, parenting, drugs, and employment. Deliberate misgendering or use of dead or rejected names. Threats of violence. Incitement of violence towards any individual, including encouraging a person to commit suicide or engage in self-harm. Deliberate intimidation. Stalking or following. Taking video recordings or screenshots without prior consent and for purpose of harassment. I wonder why that rule's there. Sharing of non-harassing private communication without consent. Again, we have given everyone a full 2 weeks to air their grievances, breaking these harassment rules and express their feelings. The zero tolerance for harassment also applies to myself and the board members. You are always welcome to send an email and connect with us privately to further express your feelings, grievances, or feedback. You can probably guess where things are going after this message. Juliet Caruso, author, posted on September 1st about her experience even signing up for the convention. So the really funny thing about Once Upon a Con is that I pulled out as an author after seeing warning signs, but after I did a million lives and saw Once Upon a Con's response, including sending other AML authors long messages explaining how well organized and experienced they were, I decided to ask back in because of FOMO and it being local to me. They let me back on the condition I pay my table fee again, unlike most other AML authors, but I understood. The acceptance email included the following. It is difficult to explain our experience and skill in this field to many who are very new to it, and unfortunately end up at places like A Million Lives where things quickly become a disaster. I held my tongue because I wanted to attend, but Once Upon a Con now owes me more money than AML ever did. They're 13 days late, and they promised authors they start our overdue payments yesterday, but nobody I've talked to has been paid yet. I have yet to even hear my new expected payment date. I'm still hoping they'll pay the money they owe me, but they ignored the first deadline, missed sending me an update to the second, and owe so many people other than authors money. So I just wanted to say that message they sent me was very condescending. Plus, guess what? I'm new to attending events as an author, but I'm not new to fantasy book conventions or conventions. Once Upon a Con claimed multiple times to be the nation's first fantasy book convention. No idea what that means because in Maryland alone, Balticon has been going on since the 1960s. ChessyCon ran from at least 2014 to 2022. And surely Once Upon a Con didn't mean fantasy only since there were multiple awesome sci-fi authors at Once Upon a Con. Or Big Fantasy Con because Balticon has pulled guest stars as big as George R.R. Martin. And that's just in Maryland. This matters so much less than the money they owe, but as someone who has loved and attended fantasy book conventions for over a decade, I just wanted to point that weird one out. Somehow that just makes all of this even worse because they were clearly misrepresenting themselves. And also, maybe poaching isn't the right word, but they were purposefully seeking out people who had already been injured by a convention to try and convince them this one will be okay. And then they just do the exact same thing. On September 2nd, Indelion Elysian posted on Threads, friendly reminder that it is 9/2/25 and Once Upon a Convention hasn't paid any of the authors as claimed for August 29th, and no updates have been received since beyond Batch 2 and Batch 3 supposedly receiving payment dates after the 29th. So how much was that attrition penalty for the debt you owed to the hotel? You told vendors and authors 5K, 6K, even 10K in attendance, but that didn't happen anywhere close to those numbers. So rooms didn't fill, the BEO was gutted, and no charges to master account was stipulated. E got a celebrity suite though, despite refunds still waiting from before of nearly $56,000. Your public Discord server is being sanitized and banning people left and right, claiming breaking rules when you are gambling with people's trust and lives during a time of actual economic hardship. Where's that near 1,000 for Make-A-Wish? What tragic backstory will come out to explain this mess? I'll wait. Mukasey is back, and also on September 2nd posted about some of the showrunners' activities since the con ended. Once Upon a Con's former chair is registered for another book event. Elena, pen name Maya Claire, which she publicly has told people, looks to be an attending author. Hopefully she doesn't try to take advantage of the authors there too. And they attached a screenshot from the event website where you can see Maya Claire is listed as an attending author. Mukasey continues, and public information isn't harassment, especially with someone who just fucked over many authors, guests, and contractors. J.L. Beer's author added, I just want to make everyone aware that she is no longer attending a bookish affair Poconos. We've addressed the situation. Mukasey asks her spouse as well. Allegedly, their pen name is in there. And J.L. Beers specifies neither of them are coming. Which is a plus. Obviously, I'm sure they signed up for the event before the con, but they don't need any other distractions until they finish fixing this mess. And it was confirmed from the official account of Bookish Fair Poconos. Important update. Due to recent concerns, we wanted to make attendees and attending authors aware. It has come to our attention that one of our attending authors was involved in problematic behavior with the previous convention and its authors, some of whom will be attending a bookish affair. Due to the misalignment with our values and the comfort of our authors, this author has been uninvited from a bookish affair. If you have any questions, please feel free to email bookishafairpoconos@gmail.com. So on September 4th, the second payment date given by the showrunners, Alchemic Cosplay posted, it is Check's calendar. September 4th, an Archer Fantasy Events, aka A Million Lives, has deactivated all social media accounts, and I'm guessing emails as well, since none of them go through anymore. Unfortunately, we have just accepted that we won't be seeing any type of financial compensations for the nearly $700 that we are out. I'm also seeing the same pattern with Once Upon a Con, with them blocking and deleting. If any of these companies do anything in the future, stay as far away as you can. So she is talking about a convention that happened much earlier this year that people showed up and basically there was no con. Articulate Dream posted, so as far as we can tell, not a single person who was owed reimbursement in the second wave received their money from Once Upon a Con. It was due yesterday, and yet I still haven't been able to find a single person who was in wave 1. I'll be talking about it on TikTok again later today, but suffice to say, I won't be involved with them next year or ever again. Please support the authors and vendors who have been affected by this shit show. Buy our books, review them, and don't give this con your money. Adding to this, I don't have a big following, and while the algorithm surfaces my content from time to time, I'm asking people to reshare this. Please spread the word, because while the con itself wasn't as bad as A Million Lives, since people actually showed up, these are not people who you should give your money or time to. The Discord has gone quiet from the organizers for days, and they're now ghosting emails as well. I just don't want to see any other authors, vendors, or attendees shafted in 2026. Starlit and Spellbound responded, I'm frustrated because I paid for next year. So if they do somehow host a second year and I can't get my money back, do I go and hope for the best? Or what's the move there? Because I don't support them or they're scamming, but I paid a lot for a corner double booth thinking it was legit because of how they kept saying sign up now so you get priority and that they were experienced con runners. Yeah, just not the con we expected to have run on us. Articulate Dream responded, in my opinion, next year, if it happens at all, will be worse than this year. And when you add lodging, food, and stock, I don't think it'll be worth it for anyone. I'm sorry you're stuck in a hard place though. This is a shit show for everyone involved. On September 5th, Chelsea Ann Tompkins posted this thread about her friendship with the Once Upon a Con showrunner, lies, misdirection, and the cost of a friendship, a Once Upon a Con story. Before I talk fully about what happened at Once Upon a Con and my friendship with the co-chair Elena, I'd like to list the authors who still have not been paid for their books by Once Upon a Con. These are just some that I was able to get handles from in a few Discords. Some are out $30, some are out over $500 for their books. So the best way to support them is 1, read their books, 2, buy their books, 3, review their books, 4, follow their socials, 5, don't create an event, sell them lies, pressure them into buying their year 2 table before year 1 has happened, and then stop all communication about the money you owe them. And she goes ahead and links to the social media profiles for many of the authors who attended. She then begins her story. Elena and I met through texts with a mutual friend back in late 2023. Through this friend, I had heard that they were putting together a fantasy book convention. My first book had just been published, and I was being considered as an author for the convention, and possibly being the first book in a book box subscription for the convention. It's important to note that as an even smaller indie author with big dreams than I am now, I was hooked, lined, and absolutely sunk. Elena and I hit it off right away with our shared love of fantasy, D&D, and cosplay. We formed a strong friendship over text and occasional FaceTimes over the next year and a half. Come fall 2024, and Once Upon a Con had their first media weekend at the Gaylord to get footage of some of the amazing cosplayers hired for the con. Shortly after was the first mass exodus of people willing to work with the con for various reasons, including money concerns and SA allegations. I was not at media weekend, so my well of knowledge about what exactly happened was limited. Soon after, the con's paid staffers quit due to lack of funds, and the third chair stepped away. At this point, I wasn't sure what to do. I was friends with Elena. The chatter about Once Upon a Con wasn't great. I started working part-time after 8 years as a stay-at-home mom. I was trying to publish the last book in my first trilogy, and I had already put in a decent amount of effort towards Project Lance. Project Lance was a great idea. 4 different fantasy kingdoms built by authors and DMs that, over the course of the years for Once Upon a Con, would help attendees choose panels, workshops, and activities based on the kingdom they most aligned with. That's how it was presented to me. And when I was asked to build one of these kingdoms, I was so invested, I immediately began some research and even started a novella. The world I built was called Ventwood, a land of dense forest with a continuous library that runs through the cities and a wind that brings prophecy to its people. Through the first Fallout, I believed in Ventwood. I believed when Elena told me Project Lance would be their big, well-known thing over the years. And after a few months, I decided I would continue on with the con because, again, I believed in it. I lived near Seattle, so getting my books to DC was going to be expensive. Elena offered for me to send my books to her house, and then she'd drive them over to the con so I could save some money, which I'm still thankful for. I was told again and again that the number of tickets sold was around 5,300, with a projection of 6K. So I brought books to sell to about 10% of attendees. I also planned my latest release to debut at the first day of the con as advertisement for myself and the Once Upon a Con. Days leading up to the con, everything was fine according to Elena. She was stressed and working hard, but it was all good. I knew immediately on Thursday when registration was starting that something was wrong. I've been to a lot of cons and I know lines. The registration line was probably a few hundred people long. If there were 5,300 attendees, it should have been much, much longer, even if not all of them were there to register Thursday. I tried not to let that sinking feeling take over and tried to be happy just to meet my friend for the first time in person. Over the course of the first and second day, I understood more and more that what was told to all of us about Once Upon a Con was in fact just not. Promises upon promises were made and we all watched them break in real time. I kept it together, met amazing fellow authors, vendors, and readers who have been following me for years now. Even through the gutted feeling in my chest, I tried my best to keep a happy face meeting new people and talking on panels. By Sunday, I was exhausted and my heart was aching. The con that was sold to me over 2 years of development was a mere fraction of what I was told it would be. There were plenty of things that happened that were not the fault of the con, and there were plenty that were. One of these things was the doubloons given to VIP ticket holders to exchange in the marketplace for one book from an author. We were told to take the coin and hand it in so we could be paid for our books by the end of the con. We were not offered the opportunity to opt out of this, though I believe by day 3, some authors didn't trust they'd be paid and stopped accepting them. The con was 3 weeks ago, and as of now, not a single author has come forward that they've been paid for these doubloons. Again, please go back and at least follow these authors to help support them. I haven't spoken to Elena since the last day when she told me that the 5,300 people picked up their badges. I cannot believe this. Judging by how my own book sold, I believe there were 2,500 people there at some point, many of whom left early. There's much more than just the theft from authors. Not having rooms for staff, so they had to pay for the rooms themselves, boasting a donation to make a wish and no evidence they've done so, all kinds of things. I took a decent hit after this con. With travel, hotel, and general expenses, I didn't expect to make a profit, but I didn't expect to be out as much as I am. Mostly due to having to ship back so many books that didn't sell due to how few attendees showed up compared to what was promised. I have in the few weeks since emailed one of the chairs that I am withdrawing the use of my IP of Ventwood from any further advertisement for future years of Once Upon a Con. I never signed an NDA, was never paid for my time, and never formally gave the rights over to the con, so the IP remains mine. I will continue to update any communications I receive as far as payment for the doubloons, if there is any. She then adds 2 more authors. Imaginative adds on, adding that cast has also not been reimbursed yet either. I'm personally out close to $3,000, so I sympathize greatly with your unexpected financial hit. So since so many people were listing out authors who attended and were screwed over, Articulate Dream did post a master list. Have you seen authors from Once Upon a Con, aka OUAC, talking about being owed reimbursements that haven't shown up? I made this master list of almost 100 authors who were affected. Please like, share, and check out our books. If you already have our books, consider dropping us a review on your site of choice. And then they had the link here, so I will go ahead and put that in the description for you if you wanted to check out the authors who attended Once Upon a Con. On September 8th, Lou Wilhelm posted, update on the Once Upon a Convention situation. Last night, they did a purge on the Discord. I have been removed from it. To my knowledge, my posts requesting communication on reimbursement have also been removed. I am 10 days from the deadline for, at the bare minimum, information about when I will be reimbursed, and I still have not received any communication. The second wave of authors were meant to be reimbursed as of the 4th of September, and none have received their reimbursements. Starlit and Spellbound adds in, I was also removed and have not had any update despite being told I'd get one after September 1st. I've also not heard from Curie since the 22nd of August. They owe me $500 for my workshop and are supposed to be refunding my table for next year and reimbursing me for swag bag donations they misused. This is not me harassing them, despite them trying to push that narrative, but rather I'm following up for payment for services rendered, as well as reimbursement for falsely advertised / misused items. Lou agrees, right? I didn't pile on, I didn't make jokes, I wasn't nasty about anything. I just asked when I'd be receiving communication. So these aren't the only two. Multiple other people that I've been posting screenshots from also commented or posted that they were banned at some point from the Discord simply for asking questions. So not only are the showrunners not reimbursing people, they're also not allowing people to A, speak their piece, B, stay in a platform that is keeping them up to date with developments as they happen. It was pretty silent for the next week or so, and then the 18th happened. So this was the third payment day that was announced at the beginning of all of this. Mukausi posted, it's payday for wave 3 of the authors for Once Upon a Con. Group 1 and 2 did not receive anything. Is Group 3 the day the authors will get what is rightfully owed to them? Or will this be yet another lie from Curie, who has been dodging responsibility like she owes it money? Pun intended. Find out tonight at midnight. And side note, for someone who talks about mental health, both their wife and them don't appear to give any shit about anyone other than themselves. Jimaginative made another post saying, it officially has been a month since I got home from Once Upon a Con, and I am still owed close to $3,000, which is now gaining interest fees and continues to impact my credit. I can't imagine. That is so stressful. So Mukausi made a second post. Once Upon a Con is starting to get chargebacks in regards to the Penelope plush and disputing them, saying that the transactions were fulfilled and items were as described. They literally admitted to not ordering the plush because they didn't meet minimum order. This after saying the plushes were stuck in a cargo ship in the ocean. Elena and Curie have no shame in lying, but we knew that already. And she tagged that Instagram post where Once Upon a Con admitted that they'd never even ordered the plushies to begin with. On the 19th, Mukausi continued, and I'm just going to say, I don't feel comfortable having these images in the video, but I will go ahead and read Mukausi's post. I received a DM from someone who gave and wanted me to release one additional resource in regards to Once Upon a Con. Before I place this information out there, this information was obtained from public websites that anyone can look up. Do not use it to harass or dox anyone. If you do and I find out, I will publicly blast you as well. After talking with the person who provided me this resource, we decided this would be a vital resource as Elena and her spouse taken advantage of everyone financially. Money has gone missing and people are suffering, which is a huge ethics violation for her job. Time to turn up the heat and do the next best thing, protect potential victims in the future. And so this screenshot at the bottom is from Elena's LinkedIn. Mukausi continues, the spouse duo will likely be upset and retaliate, saying they are being harassed / stalked. Public information is not stalking, and filing a complaint for the financial disaster that y'all put yourself in while others are actively being hurt because of your actions is not harassment, but it is holding you accountable for your actions against hundreds of people who trusted you. If you place a good faith-based complaint with evidence and they retaliate against you, make sure to document that as well. I'm sure, and then they have the place where she works, we'll want to know about that. And before this, they had posted screenshots of like a form with the employer where people can submit ethics complaints about their employees or people associated with them. 2 days after making this post, so I believe on the 21st, Mukausi continued, and it looks like she either quit or let go. I'm guessing she quit to prevent them from finding out about the gross amount of money that went missing, or saying she left to throw people off the trail. I will inquire Monday her actual status. The image that was attached is, again, Elena's LinkedIn, but now her current job changed from current to September 2025, indicating she's no longer working there. Because some people were concerned about the previous post, Mukausi made a follow-up. Is it really worth causing someone to lose their jobs over this? Absolutely. When you take advantage of people, use people, abuse them, and let them suffer from your inability to take responsibility, you need to be held accountable like everyone else who willingly causes the pain and suffering. I know you're reading stuff in the Discord. I know you see my stipulations for me not reporting to your certifications. to your license's Code of Ethics board, so you know what needs to be done. The economy sucks. The money you misappropriated and potentially embezzled from people should be accounted for. Your silence continues to show your guilt. People are and were placed in financial hardship because of you and your spouse's actions. 3 times Kiri gave dates that authors would be paid, and 3 times the dates that went by and you stayed silent while Kiri stopped all forms of communication, hiding behind mental health. So I tried looking it up and I wasn't able to find anything definitive, but to me, this is indicating that Elena and Kiri are in a relationship, which just kind of like begs the question. They made such a big deal about Elena stepping down, but if they are in a relationship or married or what have you, both of them should step down. That kind of makes them a package deal. I don't know. It's strange that both of them wouldn't have stepped down. But I guess since I wasn't able to find anything definitive, maybe my Google food's rusty, but maybe they're just like hoping that they slide under the radar for this. That is all the updates we have so far over the last month. Essentially, a bunch of empty promises, 3 payment dates that have come and passed with no reimbursement, and according to these posters, multiple lies about the plushie, what was promised, etc. I feel absolutely terrible that so many people were preyed upon, specifically after having been scammed at A Million Lives, only to be seduced into attending this event and immediately backstabbed. If we can believe the Discord and the posts that Kiri had been making, claiming that Elena was basically in charge of everything and just dropped the ball. Who knows? Who knows how true that is, but it's definitely a sign that you can't depend on one person to carry an event. When that one person flounders, whether it's due to burnout or sickness or a personal emergency, everything else falls with them. I'm honestly really sad to see this shape up the same way A Million Lives has been shaping up, with everyone being ghosted, no reimbursements. I guess we will see in October if there's been any update or any success with some of the chargebacks. Multiple people have stated they are intending on pursuing legal action. However, the same thing was set for A Million Lives, and that doesn't really seem to have gone anywhere either. I don't know. What a shame. Well, that is all for now. I will see you next time.